of very strong, it's a LEED gold building. It's really a beautiful facility. We're pretty proud of that too. And then, of course, after the wind project and a few other things like Energy House, we saw the cost of solar coming down tremendously over the last few years. And at some point, I guess it'll be about 7 years ago now, I believe, we thought, well, solar looks like it's affordable now. So let's have a close look at solar. We entered aggressively into the solar business. This was a big project which we completed a couple of years ago. This turned out to be the largest municipal solar project in British Columbia, in the little old town of Hudson's Hope, right up here in Northeast British Columbia too. Their idea was to, we helped them get a federal gas tax grant. And they used that to put up almost a little bit more than a half a megawatt of solar on 9 different municipal buildings in their community. And we were, these are some of the arrays that we put up there. And you can see they're a pretty impressive size. And they're saving Hudson's Hope now, I think it's about $75,000 a year on electrical bills, and they'll be saving that for many decades to come. This is the one we're really rather happy with. This we call the Solar Wave. This was at the Hudson's Hope outdoor swimming pool. They have a beautiful facility there, a heated swimming pool outdoor. And they wanted to add some solar to it. So we thought, let's do something interesting here. This is an outdoor swimming pool. So let's see if we can be creative with the array rather than just a bunch of flat solar panels hidden up on a roof somewhere. Let's make something out of this. So we turned it into sort of a wave sculpture, and it's proved to be very popular and is reducing the electrical bills there significantly as well. And of course, as any project that we do, we are very high in community engagement and local training. So these pictures show us training the municipal staff on how to keep an eye on the inverters and the solar arrays. And then over on the right, we're teaching a class on solar energy at their local high school. And the lower right, we have students that we hired from the high school, the local high school in Hudson's Hope, for a summer job, and got them up on the roof installing solar panels. And they were just a fantastic crew, and they were very keen on what we were doing. So community engagement is just super important for us. Here's the ribbon cutting of the official opening of the completed Hudson's Hope Community Energy Project. And once again, a celebration, ribbon cutting, media event, dignitaries, politicians, lots of local people, and a real positive enthusiasm about what was accomplished there in that very small community. Now, moving on, this is a project we're working on now that we're very excited about. This is intending to be a small community-owned solar farm. And we're looking at a piece of property right near the town of Peace River in northern Alberta. It's a rural piece of property, very what you call underutilized agricultural land, just sort of a vacant pasture area. And we'll be we're moving ahead with this now aggressively as we can, building membership and working towards another share offering that will give our membership an opportunity to invest in this project and get a return on that investment. So approximate size 2 megawatts, but that's still under research and development here. An approximate cost for 2 megawatts would be about $5 million. So that's roughly what we're going to have to raise from our members, hopefully. And we're looking at a build date of 2022 with a very long 25-year plus operational lifetime. This gives you some idea of what we're looking at. This is a similar facility, only ours would be about twice this size, comprising about 7,000 solar panels. It'll be a ground mount fixed tilt racking, and basically feeding power into the grid, into the wholesale market wholesale market energy grid in Alberta for a profit to the investors. And another really cool idea we have for this is it's a very agricultural region, Peace River, of course, and there's a lot of agricultural expertise there. And we'd like to not just put a solar farm on a piece of land and fence it off, but we'd also like to improve that land that we're on, and also introduce some agricultural component into that piece of property as well. Often sheep are now being used for groundskeeping and keeping the grass down around the panels. We intend to give that a try, and a bunch of other ideas we have, from beekeeping to farm for market gardening. So we'll see how she goes, but lots of really interesting opportunities there. Ways of using a solar farm for not just making electricity. And just a reminder that only co-op members will have an opportunity to invest in the cooperative. So of course, anybody interested in investing in something like this should immediately become a Peace Energy member. And then here's some examples of some of our smaller solar arrays around this area in northeast in northern Alberta as well. In the middle there, that's our office. That's where we're broadcasting from at this very moment. That's our Dawson Creek office with a 5 kilowatt grid-tied solar array on it. That's rendered this building net zero for the last 7 years. Happily, we have not paid 1 cent for electricity since we installed that array. You can see a few others around the area. A couple here we just finished in near Peace River, Alberta. Very happy people with their solar. Very happy. And Hudson's Hope, Mile 108. Most of these arrays we designed to be pretty close to net zero. So we have a lot of customers paying very, very, very little for electricity these days. There's a few more. And a few more. And you can see that one big shop on the left, lower left there, has got a wall covered with solar, which is working very well for them. So, that's our overview of what we've been up to. I'm going to pass this off now to Greg. Greg is our much more of a technical guy than I am, and he's going to give you what we call a crash course in grid-tied solar energy. So take her away there, Greg.
Thanks for that, Don. And our apologies for switching back and forth here. We've got limited space, so we're doing what we can. So 6 good reasons to go solar now. Of course, fighting climate change. I mean, you're making the most efficient power you can right on your building. Most of that power you're going to use. I'll talk about that in a minute. Your building uses most of that power right away. The extra goes out to the grid. So it's very, very efficient. We have excellent solar here. I mean, a lot of people say, what about winter? And again, we'll talk about that in a few minutes, but really the power we make that's really 90% is between probably March and September, October. So most of that power we make during that period of time. And with the way that the regulatory works for Alberta and BC, you can kind of save that up to use later on. Excuse me. The cost of solar has dropped a lot in the last 5 years. It's kind of stabilized a little bit now, but what we're finding is we're getting more power density for about the same price as we used to. So it's kind of like cell phones and computers. They keep getting better all the time, but the price kind of stabilizes as well. They've got a 25-year output warranty for the solar panels, and most of the components like the inverters and that come with a 10 or 12-year warranty. Some of them actually have a 25-year warranty as well. So there's very little maintenance, and they have long-term warranties, and there's very little to do with them once they're up. Both the BC and Alberta grids, and pardon me if there's somebody from outside the area, we're talking mostly about BC and Alberta, especially Northeast BC, Northwest Alberta. We can definitely go to other areas in Alberta, Southern BC, Saskatchewan, Yukon, whatever, but for the most part in this case tonight, we're talking about BC and Alberta and how that interaction goes with the utilities in those areas. Peace Energy Co-op, we're here to make it easy for you. That's our job. And we're going to make it easy for you to go solar. So basically what you're doing with solar is you're investing in your electricity for a number of years or even decades to come. You're stabilizing your cost of electricity. So here we see the cost of solar. You invest in year one, very, very slight increase because you may have to do a little bit of maintenance over the years. It's very little. But in the meantime, the red line, of course, is the cost of your electricity without going solar. Your rates are going to go up with your utilities. And even if BC Hydro, I know a couple of years now, they've gone down slightly, but the next year they go up even more. So over the course of period of time, they always go up more than they go down, of course. And so that's the benefit of going solar for the cost wise. In general, so the sun comes up in the morning, your solar panels make power. That's number one. In this case, that power goes into your inverter, number 2 on the wall there. Number 3 is shows the fridge. The fridge is drawing power at that moment, and it's drawing 700 watts. So in this case, the solar is not enough to supply that load in your house. So seamlessly off the grid, 500 watts of power comes in from the grid. Now, as the sun comes up further, we've got 2,000 watts of power being made by the solar panels now. That goes into your breaker panel. Your fridge is still using 700 watts. Well, now you're actually making more power than what you're using at that moment. So that extra power goes out to the grid. And number 4 there is a bidirectional meter, and it works the same in both Alberta and BC, where the utility keeps track of that power inflow and in the power outflow. And then on your bill, it's balanced out to come up with your final bill. Note at the bottom there, we're not talking about batteries. There's no batteries required for a grid-tied system. It's just power in and power out. It's all seamless. You don't have to think about it. And there's really not a lot of maintenance to do. It's up there and it makes power whenever the sun shines. So, in this area, of course, as you lived here for any period of time, knows that we get a lot of sun in the summer. So like I said before, starting about March through to October, we make about 90% of our power. So as far as winter goes, even if you were making perfect power all through the winter, you're only going to make about 10% of your yearly production. Now, we know that sometimes we get snow covering them, yeah, but then in a few days, usually that snow either blows off or melts off, slides off, so then we can make power again. So that 10% in the winter that you could maximally make, it's up or down a little bit depending on the weather, but it's not enough to really worry about cleaning off your panels for the most part. It also depends on the slope of your solar panels, the direction, the orientation to the sun, and how much snow there is as well, and the temperature. So all those factors, usually the snow will slide off fairly quickly. I was sitting in the office today, and again, there was a rumble, and the solar panels cleared themselves off after about 2 hours of sun today. So we've got a fairly steep roof, and it's nice to hear that coming off, because then you're making power again. This is our office again, as John mentioned, in Dawson Creek, and you see the slope on the roof. It's pretty good. These numbers are a little bit old, but 3 million solar roofs in the USA, 2 million in Japan, 3 million in Australia, 5 million plus in China. I think that number is really old. I mean, China is installing millions and millions of solar panels every year right now, but so is the USA and so is Japan. And now Canada is starting to install more as well, especially in the western side of the country. We've been a little bit behind on installing solar, but now it's coming along really well, and more people are buying into it and realizing the real benefits of it. So so I'll go back. That's a roof mount system. It's called a flush roof mount system. It's parallel to the roof surface. It's using the roof as the structure that holds the solar panels. Because it's already there, it's cheaper to install. It's quick and it's easy. The next one is called a ground mount solar system. And in this case, we have to put a structure in place for the solar panels to hold on to with the racking. In this case, it's screw piles or helical piles, but we can also use concrete blocking and a couple of other styles. So this is a great system because, as you can see, they have a bit of a steeper slope to them. The snow will slide off in the winter, but they also make excellent power through the year, and especially in the summer, because they can stay cooler. Now, because you have to build the structure, they also cost a little bit more. So there's this trade-off. Every system is unique, and we design custom systems for everyone because it all depends on your situation, your location, your buildings, your budget, and all those factors. And then, of course, we have flat roof systems. Flat roof system uses a ballasted. In most cases, it can also be fastened down mechanically with screws, but in most cases with these, we don't want to penetrate the roof, so we use a ballasted system where the weight of the cement blocks holds it on. They're very, very good use of space because usually that's just sitting there anyway. And in many of these cases, it actually increases the length of the roof as well, the lifespan of the roof. Here's an example of inverter types. So the inverter we have in the building here is called a string inverter system. And the one on the left is similar to that, where the solar panels are strung together in strings. That increases the voltage, and that DC voltage goes into the string inverter, which then is turned into power and goes into your breaker panel. Sorry, I'm just going to change my mouse here so that I can point on the screen. Annotate. And mouse, there we go. Okay, I think you should be able to see my screen now. And there we go. Okay, So yeah, here we have the string inverter is here. The power is coming down from the roof. We have a cable going here that goes over to the breaker panel. That puts power into your house breaker panel that any of your circuits in your house use, like that fridge that I showed earlier. And this side here is what's called a microinverter system. Microinverter system has these microinverters installed on the roof underneath the solar panels. The solar panels put the power into the microinverter. The microinverter delivers that power directly through a disconnect into your breaker panel. So just two slightly different systems. And again, depending on each situation, they have their pros and cons, and we look at which one is going to work better for you. This is an example of the monitoring. So pretty much all of the inverter companies now have cloud-based monitoring that you can access for free, as long as you have access to the internet. So if we can get your inverter connected to the internet, this monitoring is free, and you can have it on your phone or on your computer or on your tablet. And it's a really nice way to have a feedback on what's happening, to know your system is making power. More importantly, it's just good to know your system is making power, because if for some reason the breaker gets flipped or something happens that's not working, you want to know that, because if you lose any kilowatt hours of production, they're gone. You can't get them back. So it's nice to be able to follow it on a regular basis, especially during the high peak production months, and make sure it's still making power and not having any issues. If you see, as what you can see here, some of these are bright blue, some of them are darker blue. Bright blue indicates making more power. If one of these was black perchance, then we would know that was an issue with that one, and we could go and do the maintenance on it, and maybe possibly get warranty if needed to get it fixed. So frequently asked questions, of course, what does solar cost? As I mentioned, we custom design for each building, each location. It all depends on shading, roof angle, slope, but more importantly, what happens is we need to know how much power you use. Both in BC and in Alberta, they have what's called right sizing of the system. We look at how much power you normally use. We try and design a solar system that produces about that much power on an annual basis. And in doing so, in BC, it's called net zero. Well, net zero in Alberta as well. BC is slightly different with net billing, and Alberta has, or sorry, net metering. Alberta has net billing, and I'll explain those in upcoming slides here. So in winter, what does it cost? I mean, roughly, we're getting roof style systems like this now for about $3 a watt fully installed. Some are a little bit cheaper, some a little bit more. And a ground mounted system is probably about $3.50 a watt, or up to $4 a watt, again, depending on where you're located and what it looks like. And I'll go through a slide later, of course, what that looks like as well. What happens in winter, as you can see here, there was a good foot plus of snow on the roof. After they get warmed up a little bit, there's a little sheen of water gets formed on the solar panels. The snow slides right off and they start making power. Like I say, this roof is fairly steep. So if your roof slope is lower down, it's flatter, then the snow's not going to slide as easily, but it will melt off. And even if it stayed there for a long time, you're not going to lose a lot of power because winters are, they just what happened. We don't make a lot of power in winter. I will admit that with my solar system, we're using a lot of extra power. We have 2 EVs now, and we do actually, I try and clean them off a little bit, but we were calculating on the weekend, and I think we managed to make about 28 cents the next day because I cleaned them off. So, time for money, I don't know. It feels better for me knowing they're making power, but probably not worthwhile. But we would not suggest you go on the roof. I just reach as far as I can with one of those snow rakes and pull down as much snow as I can very carefully to not damage the array, not hurt anybody or damage anything down below. Do we have to face south? I mean, in general, facing south is excellent. That's where the sun is shining. We want to make as much power as we can with your investment, but sometimes we have to work with what you have. And you'll notice this house on the left here, this is actually a full east-facing roof. They get excellent power production. There's no shading of any kind. As the sun goes around to the other side in the west, it actually keeps making power until 7 or 8 o'clock at night. It's not full power like it would be in the middle of the day, but it's still getting power made, and they are a net zero system. The one on the right is actually in a bunch of trees. It's east-west facing, and she's got power solar on both sides of the roof. And again, very happy with the energy production and making power. The roof slope can matter. As I mentioned, a steeper roof slope like we have at the office or this house on the left can make more power, and a ground mount system, we usually put it about 45 degrees. That'll make more power again. But what it does, it kind of shifts when it makes more power. If you think of where the sun is in the sky at this north latitude, in the middle of the summer, you know, it comes up almost in the north and sets in the north. It's so high in the sky. So an array on the right side that's a little bit flatter will have a different power curve than the array that's on the left side. And in general, steeper tends to make a little bit more power, but it depends what you're working with, and we'll work with that. As far as shade goes, we have we have professional solar software that we use that calculates the energy produced. It calculates on an hourly basis throughout the year using data sets for the weather in that area. And what we do is we also add shading. We can add in trees around the array or other buildings, that sort of thing, so that we can get a pretty good sense. I mean, it's not going to be exact. Weather changes every year. Trees come down or grow higher and that sort of thing. But it does give us a pretty good sense of what you're likely to encounter for energy production. And that's what we can look at and say, if you usually use so much power, now we can make about that same amount of power to become net zero, or install a system that matches your budget and then move on from there. You know, we don't need batteries, but some people will choose to put in batteries because of their situation. In this case, this couple would go away for the winter quite often. And even though people were checking on their house, they wanted to know that when nobody was there, that the power was automatically going to come on for their sump pump, their freezers, and the furnace. So they have it's a more complicated system. The inverter, as you noticed before, the inverter was fairly small. This inverter has to both charge the batteries. The batteries are charged from the solar with this little unit here, but then the inverter gives power from the batteries to their house. It also gives power out to the grid. It's a grid interactive backup inverter. So the power is still there when the grid goes down. But of course, because it's a more complicated system, it's also more expensive. So it all depends on your goals, what you're wanting to do, and what your situation requires. When you sell your house, these systems, what the studies have found, pretty much reclaim themselves in the initial cost. So, you know, as far as selling your house, they usually add a little bit of extra because it differentiates your property from other buildings and properties like that are in the market. And it gives you that little bit of a boost for something special with your property. So it can be a really good add-on. And for businesses, you can write off your system in the first year or an accelerated rate. So when you sell your business, you may have gotten a lot of benefit back on the tax write-offs, and your system is still there with an asset value for the location. Just a real quick overview of installing a system, kind of what it looks like. Here they are, the crew is putting on the rails and the feet hold it to the structure of the roof. The rails go across the trusses. And then the solar is going to be attached to that. Now, the two little inset pictures, you'll see this one on the right-hand side. That's called a standing seam roof. And in this case, we don't even have to penetrate anything. These little screws will clamp onto the roof, and then the solar panels racking attaches to the top. So a very good way to attach to a standing seam roof. Lasts for probably 100 years. We don't penetrate the roof. And in fact, this kind of system will actually increase the strength of that roof because it clamps the panels together, so they'll withstand more wind loading than a regular tin roof. On the other side, we have what's called a corrugated roof. And here, this one screws right into the angles of the roof, so not down into the bottom where the water flows. There's a seal underneath, and there's seals on the screws as well. So it's fastening right into the roofing material. So there's different ways we can work with any type of roofing, even wood shakes and that sort of thing. Here they are attaching the solar panels. The panels weigh about 50 pounds a piece. The racking is aluminum, so it's not very heavy. In general, we say that the entire system adds about 4 pounds per square foot to your roof. So not very heavy, and well within the working loads of snow loads that the roof is designed for. Here we have they're connecting the electrical. Basically, the panels are plug and play as long as you know what you're doing. And then connecting the inverter. So this is at our office, and you can see on the left-hand side here, there's 2 black cables coming down from the roof. That's our roof is set up with 2 strings of solar panels. So this is a regular string inverter. The strings come down with DC power into the inverter. The inverter changes it to AC power, and it's not shown here, but there will be a cable that comes over and puts the power into the breaker panel for the building to use. So the whole idea is you're not, like I say, you don't need batteries. You're not putting power directly out to the grid. You're going to use it first in your building and then put it out to the grid if you don't need it at that moment. Then we have, of course, an electrical inspection and get approval to generate power. All of these systems have to be pre-approved by the utility to attach to the grid. So we have to go through an approval process and apply to them. And that's something that we take care of at Peace Energy Cooperative, again, to make it easy for you. This is just a quick overview of a ground mount. So the screw piles go into the ground, or the ground is prepared and concrete blocks are installed. The racking goes on top of those. The solar panels are attached on there. And in this case, it's microinverters. So you can see on the back side of the solar panels here, each of these black boxes. In this case, these boxes are connecting 2 solar panels. So we have 2 solar panels to each inverter, microinverter. The AC power from that microinverter goes into this box on the right-hand side that has disconnects in it. And that goes out of the, on the bottom here to the breaker panel in your building. Here's a ground mount array. In this case, on a farm, quite often we'll have the breaker panel, the main breaker panel, and the meter will be in a little power shed like this, or sometimes in Alberta, they're out on the pole. But we can work with all of that. It's all good. The other thing we've done for a lot of customers is put in a backup generator panel, where it's a manual or automatic transfer panel, so that if the power goes out, it's an efficient way to have backup power without having a battery system. You know, it's a generator. Generators have their place. They still work in certain situations. And that way, if you have the power go out, especially out in the country, you can still have power and keep yourself going. So just a quick comment. Like I mentioned, we have a couple of EVs, actually plug-in hybrid electric vehicles. If you have a full electric vehicle, basically you can self-fuel, because if you're producing power on the roof, and that power is not being used maybe at that moment, or you could plug in at that moment and it goes into your vehicle, or it goes out to the grid. They keep track of those credits and you use off those credits later on. So effectively you're self-fueling your electric vehicle. And it works very well, I'll have to say. We drive around town pretty much all day, every day on electricity. With ours, we have a plug-in hybrid electric vehicle, so we can go to Edmonton or Vancouver at any time and drive on gas until we get where we can charge again. So each vehicle has a different range, and some of the newer EVs are getting up to 500, 800, 1,000 kilometers. So it's getting better all the time, and the charging infrastructure is getting better all the time. But most people, about 80% of the EVs still charge at home. So if you have a charger, in this case, it's a SolarEdge, it's a SolarEdge inverter with the charger included in it, or you can have a separate charger for your vehicle. And you can just charge at home every night. It takes me a minute to charge our vehicle, because I plug it in when I get home and I unplug it in the morning when I leave. So that's always a nice thing as well. So looking at kind of what does it look like to design a system. So here's a rural property up in this area. As you can see, we've got a shop. The shop has a north-south ridge, so that means the roof slopes are east and west. We have a house that has a generally south-facing ridge. It's broken by a dormer here. And then we have lots of room, of course, for a ground mount. Now, in this case, I've said, roughly this house uses about 7,000 kilowatt hours per year. So what would be the options there? So we're looking for what space do we have available? What percentage of net zero do you want to be? So if we can displace 7,000 kilowatt hours per year, that's called net zero. You're fully displacing the energy you normally use in a year. It depends on when you make that energy and when you use that energy. So some billing cycles, you may still have a bill. Other billing cycles, you're going to have credits. So I'll show you an example of that in a few minutes as well. And then, of course, it depends on your budget. And maybe we don't have a budget for a full 100% net zero system. So we install what we can now. You start reducing your bills, and you can always add on later. Solar is very flexible that way. We can add on to it as we go. And the other thing is visuals. In this case, I'm going to show you a ground mount here. They've got a really nice deck here looking over the valley. Maybe they don't want to look at a solar array, so we would look at another area on the property for that. Now, please note at the bottom, these are very rough numbers for presentation purposes only. Don't take them as what they actually is. It's just an idea to show you how this all works. So let's say we look at that, the shop that has an east-west facing roof. If we covered the entire roof, we can fit about 22 kilowatts of solar on there. It's going to make about 21,000 kilowatt hours of power. Now, when you look on your bills, kWh is kilowatt hour, and that's what we're looking for as a number to try and hit with the solar energy production, kilowatt hours for 1 year as an average. In this case, if you see at the bottom here, 960 kilowatt hours per kilowatt peak. And what that refers to is for every kilowatt of solar that's installed on the roof, you're going to produce about that much power per kilowatt in a year. And so if you notice this east-west is 960, when we look at the other ones, you'll see that number go up because the more we're facing south, the better energy production you have, the more efficiency it is. However, what we're finding too is that the cost of solar has come down so much, even if you're east-west facing, we put a few extra solar panels on to adjust for that, those kind of losses as it is, but it doesn't cost that much more and you're still able to make a lot of power. So if we wanted to produce that 7,000, excuse me, 7,000 kilowatt hours per year to make it net zero on this property, we would need about a 7.5 kilowatt array, roughly at $3 a watt, that's about $22,500. And as a really rough ROI, return on investment in year one, that's about a 4% return on investment. Now, I know a lot of people, I looked at my bank stuff the other day, I'm getting, I think, between 0.1 and 0.8% at the bank. Rates are not very good right now. So, you know, if you look at a 4% ROI, that's looking pretty good. And as a business, of course, you can, if you have a business opportunity, you can write off a lot of that as well. Let's look at the house. So the house, of course, we noticed it's got a dormer. That's this cutout in the middle. I put as much solar on there as I can. We've got about 10.5 kilowatts of solar. That's 12,000 kilowatt hours per year. Well, we don't need that much. We only need 7,000. So we're going to bring it a little bit smaller in the next slide. Notice this number at the bottom, 1,175 kilowatt hours per kilowatt peak. So this is a more efficient array. We're fully facing south. You can see the solar panels are a bright green because they're making a lot of energy and it's more efficient. In this case, a smaller array, about 6 kilowatts, is going to make our system net zero. And we're getting about a 6% return on investment in year one. Again, at $3 per watt. Excuse me. Let's look at a ground mount array. So in this case, ground mount, you know, I can put it whatever size I want on there. It depends on the space we want to take up and on the budget, of course. But notice the number at the bottom. Now, 1,300 kilowatt hours per kilowatt peak. A ground mount array is going to be more efficient because it can cool itself in the summer. In general, it has a better slope or angle towards the sun, and it's oriented towards the sun, and we can move it away from any shading for the most part. So generally, ground mounts are more efficient, but they cost more to install. So it's just kind of the way it is. Now, in this case, ground mount's more efficient, so we need a smaller array, but it's going to cost more to install. So it's very similar in price in this case to a roof mount, and with a 6.5% return on investment. So what does that look like on our bills? So if we have our bill, in this case, we're net metering up at the top in BC Hydro, and our bill will show our inflow and our outflow. And in this case, you can see on the left-hand side here, before we installed solar, the light blue columns, that's our inflow from the grid. So that's the energy we're buying from BC Hydro. Then we installed our solar, and our solar started producing energy. Now, the first thing it does, if you recall, is it reduces the amount of energy you need to buy from BC Hydro. So it's reducing the amount you have to buy from BC Hydro. And then it's also putting power back into the grid that you're going to get as a credit on your bill. And that's the dark blue line here. That also shows, they've given us a nice little graphic on our bills at the bottom, shows us our inflow and our outflow and the amount in that billing period for doing that. Then on the bill, flip side of the bill, of course, where the money counts, it shows you again that inflow from the grid, the outflow to the grid, and up above here, it shows the current balance. So it takes our inflow and our outflow, and it takes any credits you had before, and it gives you a current generation balance. Now that generation balance transfers to the next slide, where it shows us how much we're going to be paying. And in this case, you know, we have our basic charges that we can't get rid of. There's the customer crisis charge, and there's a, you know, an energy charge, a base charge every day of the billing cycle. But in this case, our credits have actually made us 0 kilowatt hours for that billing period. So in this case, we've got a 0 energy charge. All we're paying for is the other charges, which means for this billing period, we have $12.57. This is an actual customer. So now in Alberta, it's very similar, but in Alberta, it's called net billing. Oh, sorry, let me go back here. So in BC, that net metering, those credits in the summer, if you have enough credits being generated and you're not using a lot of power, the credits keep building up from billing cycle to billing cycle to billing cycle until you start using them off as you go through the winter. And that's where one of the real benefits of the BC Hydro system is that those credits can carry over, and you're actually trading kilowatt hours for kilowatt hours. And anybody who's looked at their electricity bills knows that a step 2 rate for a residential system in BC Hydro is 15 cents per kilowatt hour. So effectively, that's what you're paying yourself when you're displacing that energy. So it's a really good value. In Alberta, it's a little bit different. Every billing cycle, you're going to pay for any power you use, and you're going to get paid for any power that you produce. So on this bill, the red area is power that you've used. This is power you're used from the utility. You're paying for that power, in this case, 187 kilowatt hours, and you're paying $35.53 plus an administration fee. Now, what you're also doing is you're making power and putting it onto the grid. So you've displaced some power, you've reduced the amount of power you're bringing in from the utility. Now you're also putting credits back onto the grid. In that billing cycle, they're going to pay you for that billing cycle and those credits, and you're going to get a cash credit on this bill. That calculates over here balances out between those two. You've got a cash credit on this bill that then goes against all of your other charges, which in this case for this customer gave them actually a cash credit to carry to the next bill. Now in Alberta, this is tough to get a cash credit because these base distribution charges are always there. There's transmission charges and there's other charges, and there's a whole lot of different charges. But in general, you're doing the same thing. In this case, you're creating cash credits that may carry over to the next bill or may just reduce that bill. But again, your price per kilowatt hour is quite high, so the benefit is very high. Now, one of the big benefits in Alberta as well is, this is a bill from the Alberta Cooperative Energy Group, ACE. And in Alberta, you can choose your retailer, which means that you can choose a retailer that's friendly to generating power. And this is called microgen. So in this case, you can actually get paid more for your power in summer and then switch to another rate for the winter where you get paid less, but you also pay out less. So we can talk more about that individually and what that means for you, but that's the way to maximize your system in Alberta, is you actually switch your rate schedule through the seasons to depending on when you're making your power, when you're using your power. So that's kind of the billing system for BC Hydro, net metering, and Alberta for net billing. If you're a business, the federal government has a special tax class for you. It's called a capital cost allowance, and it's a class 43.1 or 43.2. I would just caution, we're not accountants, so we know that this is available. You have a choice of doing 100% in the first year or 50% per year on a declining basis, which effectively gives you an improved ROI. But best to talk to your accountant and find out how it affects you and your business individually. So financing your solar power system, there's of course a number of options. Self-financing, you can add it to your mortgage for a new construction. Very affordable, you're not adding that much on. It's spread over a long period of time, and basically the savings are going to pay back into any extra you're paying on the mortgage. You can add it to a mortgage renewal with the same idea. You can pay it out of savings, which, as we mentioned, a lot of people, if you look at your savings, are very, very low rate right now, and you're probably going to make a lot more with a solar system. And keep in mind with solar that as the rates go up with the utilities, you're actually putting more money in your own pocket because you're not having to pay out those higher rates. You're saving that in your own pocket as the years go on. And this will go for decades, not just a couple of years. So a really good investment. You can repurpose an investment, again, with those low interest rates. You can get a line of credit or home renovation loan. These are just throwing out some ideas. Now, the new one here, what we have is Alberta. We've arranged with the Alberta Treasury branch. They have a solar finance loans program. And so we can apply to them for financing for your solar system. And in BC or Alberta, now we can do a business lease with Atticus Financial, it's called. And so you don't have to use the cash you have on hand or go to your bank. You can get a business lease, which in many cases is apparently more tax beneficial for you. At the bottom, we mentioned PACE financing, and we don't know of a lot of areas that PACE financing is available, but it's a very powerful tool. And I didn't put it in here. I forget the name, what the acronym stands for, but basically what happens is local government bodies can add the cost of a solar system to your taxes. So it's a really good way of doing it, because if you add it to your taxes, when you sell the property, the next person's taking over basically whatever's owing on that. It's kind of like when we had our street repaved in front of our house, we had the option of paying it out in a cash or putting it on our taxes or splitting it up. And it's that same idea, but using it for renewable energy systems like solar. In some places, they actually do it for energy refits and other things as well. So, but the problem is we have to lobby our local governments and explain it to them and get them to actually put it in place. So there are groups to help do that. And if you're interested, we can, point you towards that, and you can help lobby for that. The other thing is to call us and let us help you in any way we can to figure out the financing or design of the system. So I'm going to pass it back to Don to finish up here. We're Why Choose Peace Energy Cooperative.
Yeah, where are we? Why choose Peace Energy Cooperative? Yeah, well, yeah, we're into it all right. We're very much into it. Pretty well everybody here in this room has a solar array on their roof. Yeah, and most of our board of directors do. And I was an early adopter, just so you know. I've got a solar panel on my array just outside of Dawson Creek here that was purchased in 1984. So I can certainly attest to the longevity of this technology and the very, very, very low maintenance required to keep it working. Because I've really done absolutely nothing to my solar array since 1984, except pay very, very, very low electrical bills. So yeah, we're into it, and we're here for the long term. And of course, we custom design for you, really anywhere in Western Canada. But certainly we have a lot of data on Northeast BC and Northwest Alberta with all the arrays we've installed and we are monitoring. So yeah, we do the complete project management for you from beginning to end, including any paperwork that might be involved for applications or permissions. And we are residents up here, so we're certainly in it for the long term. Summary of key points. Yeah, just call us. We try to make really things simple for you. It's pretty straightforward. Technology and going ahead and just getting it installed. It can happen pretty quick. And once it's installed, there's really very, very little for you to do. Waiting for new technology. Yeah, probably not. There's lots of research going on in solar energy, of course, but the technology we have right now is extremely mature, extremely available, and extremely cost effective. So really, yes, there may be improvements down the road, but it takes at least a decade for a new technology to really become available and affordable. So we go with existing, very high quality existing technology, and I think that's really all you have to worry about. And of course, we know that going solar is one really, really big thing you can do to help the environment now and every day into the future. So of course, we encourage you to become a member of our cooperative. We're a member-based cooperative. We're driven by our membership, and we raise capital for bigger projects through our membership, as I discussed earlier. So it's a matter of calling our office in either BC or in Alberta, and going ahead with something. If you're just asking some questions, we'll see what we can do for you. So becoming a member, what are some of the benefits? A membership is a lifetime membership is $200. And you get a lifetime membership and a lovely certificate suitable for framing. Of course, that is actually buying a membership share in the cooperative. So you own a piece of the cooperative. That gives you an opportunity to elect, you then have a vote in the cooperative to elect board members, etc. You have a voice in the renewable energy future that we're building. And of course, you will, as a member, you would have opportunity to invest in any projects that we come up with that you might want to invest in for a return on that investment. And of course, you receive blogs that we write and updates on our seminars and free invitations to a variety of events, and keep you informed as to the latest renewable energy technologies into the future. This is our Peace River office. I invite you to call Jen Ford, our solar consultant there. If you're in that area, you can drop in and have a chat with her. This is our office in Dawson Creek, and Greg Dewick would be the person you most likely speak to here. So we have questions. Do we have questions?
Yeah, we have questions. So one of the first questions is from Brian. And Brian asks, how much do cloudy days impact production, and what do you notice? So, I mean, definitely, Brian, clouds do impact. And actually, the year that we had so much smoke, 2 years ago, we had a lot of smoke in the fall, and that also impacted production. We could see that, but it's not huge for the most part. And I guess what can I say? Yeah, I mean, anything that impacts the sunlight, hitting the array is going to affect the energy production. But for the most part, it's not a big thing. In the middle of the summer, what we've seen, if you've got a really big dark cloud and it goes over the sun, or even a small one actually, if it goes over the sun, your system gets a dark cloud really quickly, then the energy production drops off like a cliff. But then as the cloud moves away, it comes back up the other side of that valley just as fast. So, overall, Don, did you have anything from what you've seen?
Yeah, I mean, it certainly solar panels love bright sunlight. There's no question, but look at Germany, and it's not exactly the sunniest country in the world, yet we know globally it's one of the great leaders in solar all around the world. So, yes, there is less energy produced with overcast than in bright sunlight, no question. But that does not mean that solar is less valuable because of that. It means you may put another solar panel or two on your roof to make up for it. That's kind of all it boils down to. Is that?
And watching my monitoring, quite often I'm quite surprised it is making power, because we'll have cloud and yet it still comes on and makes power.
Oh, I'm blown away. Yeah. Peace Energy put on a new array and enlarged my array 2 years ago at home, just outside of Dawson Creek. And these new solar panels compared to the old ones are absolutely amazing. The way they pick up light from an angle. They've got, I guess, reflective coatings on them now they didn't have 20 years ago. And they just seem to suck in light from very low angle. The sun's just coming up and my panels are producing really, really well. And I'm kind of standing there going, whoa, that's amazing, really. Because it used to be like the sun had to be shining right on them, right above them. And it's not that way anymore at all. So that's been one of the big improvements just in the last 4 or 5 years, I take it.
Yeah, I think so. They've got, if you feel the glass on a solar panel now, it's not smooth like your window glass. It's actually quite rough. And what that does is it takes the light and basically kind of refracts it down onto the solar cell. I guess
it does.
Power,
yeah, it really does. It makes a difference. It makes a significant difference. And you can really notice it. So yeah, very, very interesting question and a good discussion. But I would say things are just getting better that way every year. And they're already really good.
Yeah. Another question from Pat. Pat says, maintenance and who takes care of that? And we have maintenance plans available. We've got a maintenance plan with one of our major buyers so far, I guess. Say. And so yeah, it doesn't take a lot of maintenance, and probably for a home-based system, every couple of years going up, just making sure the array is tight. There's no critters under there chewing any wires, that sort of thing. Checking and monitoring to make sure it's okay. We're going to be coming up with a plan where we can check it on a regular basis for you, so that it makes sure it's working. Because we found at the beginning with the monitoring that even though you can check it, quite often after a while people kind of just get on with other things in their life. So that's something that we're going to be able to take on for you to make sure your system is operating correctly.
Yeah, if you're interested, with operation and maintenance, O&M, right? We have an O&M plan. We can keep an eye on your array for you. And if we see any problems, of course, we tell you about them and offer to help out. But as I say, I've had solar since 1984, and I literally have done nothing to my array other than I added a critter guard a couple of years ago. Yeah, a critter guard is a little wire thing you put around your array that keeps squirrels out and birds and things. So I added that just so that nothing could get under there and maybe cause a problem. But other than that, really the maintenance is extremely low on these arrays. Yeah.
Next question is from Alan, and he asks, what would be an expected rate of return for the solar farm in theory? Alan, we have to be really careful with this one because of the Securities Commission in Canada. So when we put this out as an offering to our members, there will be an offering statement to the members that they can review and decide if the information in there matches their investment portfolio and what they would like to do. So in there would be, expected rates of return on that. I mean, we're hoping, well, our business model has to be a good enough return on investment so we can pay back to the members, as well as have money left over for further development and operations of the cooperative. So, I mean, that's what our business model will be. And if we don't come up with an offering, then it will have been too low. If it's looking good enough to us, and, we would hope, I don't know, can we say a hopeful percentage? Or
well, you've been running the numbers. I haven't been running the number. What did you come up with?
So I mean, we would expect that, you know, most investors would want at least 4 or 5% to invest substantially. So
that would be
that's
bottom.
what,
That'd be the bottom.
yeah, that's what we're looking for in our business model, to have that or more before we make an offering to the members. But at this point, it's looking pretty good. We've got a lot of investigation to do yet. And to be fair, we're investment, you know, renewable energy investment cooperative. And maybe this project, it may be a different project. We don't know yet. We can only say we're looking for opportunities to give our members investment opportunities.
Yeah, but this one looks like the one that we are really focusing on. And so I think there's a really, really good chance that there will be a solar farm built by Peace Energy Cooperative members somewhere near Peace River, Alberta in the next year or two. I think there's a pretty good chance, because by golly, we're working really hard on that, right?
Yeah.
And our whole team is very much focused on that. So that is really what we're trying to do. And there's no big reason we've come up with why it is that we will not be successful in doing that. So, but we can't promise. We just can't promise. It's not legal to promise, actually.
So, yeah. The reason to join Peace Energy Cooperative is because you want to support what we're doing, you want to be part of it, and you want to have an opportunity for whatever we can offer in the future.
Yeah, we've done surveys of our members many times through the years. Right? We've been around a long time here, so we kind of get to know our membership. And I think it's about 70%, 80%, in the 75% range of our members join the cooperative to support what we are doing, right? They want to be part of what we do, whether it's developing wind energy, solar energy, or running webinars like this, right? We are doing a lot of the right stuff that people need to have done for them, right? Which is educate and make available and install and renewable energy systems. So, you know, a big percentage of our members are part of our organization and are coming along on this ride with us because they want to support us. They want to be part of it. But of course, we are an renewable energy investment cooperative. So that is also our main goal, is to come up with projects that our members can invest in for a good return on their investment. So it's a mixture of the two. And why you would join is up to you. Maybe it's a little bit of both. All right. But whatever it is, we certainly do need your support. We are constantly trying to build membership, because the more members we have almost 570 now. We're going to shoot for 1,000 members here by the end of next year. That's our goal. And with that amount of capital, with that number of members, we can raise a significant amount of capital and build a significant facility. And that's definitely what we'd like to do. So yes, we would really like our membership to grow through the next year. And we'll be talking more about that through the year. If you get on one of our mailing lists or something, or join, you'll hear a lot more about that.
Yeah. All right, I'll move on here. So Pat has asked for a ballpark figure on installation per panel. That's really difficult, Pat, because it depends on so many different factors. What we tend to use is a price per watt installed. It's kind of more reflective of no matter what components we use and where you're located and the type of installation. It's price per watt that kind of makes a difference. Most of our panels are 400 watts right now, 425. Next year, they're probably going to be higher than that. Like I said, the energy density per panel is going up as we go. I mean, so if you wanted to calculate it out that way, you know, $3 a watt times 400 watts is about 1,200 per panel installed. But you have to keep in mind that what's included in there is the traveling to and from the site, the guys setting up, the electrical permit, maybe the building permit. You know, there's a lot of things in the background. So if it's a smaller system, if it's just a 2 or 3 kilowatt system, that's great starter. But what's going to happen is it's an increased price per watt, because you still have those base costs that you have to pay for. Where if you put in a larger solar system, it's the kind of those costs are all included, but now you've got a larger system, so it's more cost effective to install it.
Right, there's the economy of scale. There's no question. It costs less per installed watt for larger systems. That is a fact. Yeah, but you know, one panel still makes sense. That's one of the beauties of solar. So
here's one for you, Don. Does PEC have any political affiliations?
No, we're happy to say. Well, very early on in the formation of the cooperative, way back when we first started talking about this around 2000, 2001, we made it, you know, very we made a very strong policy decision, and that decision was to be non-political and be non-negative, you might say. We take a very positive attitude towards everything, especially, of course, renewable energy. So we don't spend time, trashing other energy forms or something. That's just a waste of breath and a waste of time. What we're interested in is renewable energy specifically. And so we talk very positively about that and put all of our energies into building a better world run by clean energy. So no, non-political and very positive, you might say. That's yeah. We're just going to put all of our energy into being positive and getting the job done that has to be done. We need a lot of renewable energy as quickly as possible. Let's get out there and make it happen.
Yeah, and we are we are owned by the cooperative members, so we find we have very limited capacity, both financially and manpower wise. So we really want to focus on doing the best thing we can for our members as well.
Exactly.
Any other questions, Joanne, or should we go to this last one?
Yeah, that's all so far.
All right, so the last question we have, and my apologies, we still having a problem as far as the names go. A lot of members or people on the call are still called Kieran Duick.
Oh.
So there's a question if we want to do a roll call, and I'm not quite sure how we do that, but if you want to unmute yourself, might be kind of everybody at once.
It's a cool idea, though.
And then we can, if you turn your video camera on, hold up your hand, and then we can choose somebody to call out their name and where they're located. Just do a quick roll call. Alan Ma, did you want to say hello?
Yeah, hello. Fort St. John.
Fort St. John, excellent.
Awesome.
What brings you to this webinar, Alan?
Thinking of putting a solar in my house, but not quite sure yet. Trying to get the general information.
Right on. Well, you started at the right place. Who else we got?
I'm Pat. I don't have video.
Oh, hi, Pat. Whereabouts you located?
In Grand Prairie.
Okay, yeah.
Cool.
Welcome.
Welcome. And why are you here this evening?
Again, I've been thinking and wondering about solar for probably 3 to 4 years, but didn't know who to talk to in this area. And then I'm also a little bit older, and so wondering if 25 years I'll even have my house, or if I'll be somewhere in a nursing home.
Well, I'm 72 and I'm still putting more solar on my roof, but
Oh, okay.
maybe I'm a bit of a fanatic, but it increases the value of your home. I think that's one of the messages we're trying to get across here. These systems retain their value for decades. So by adding it to your home, it's like, I don't know, paving your driveway or putting in a new kitchen, right? It's a home asset that increases the value of your home. So if you sell anytime in the next 25 years, you're going to get not only a lot of the money you put into it back, you're also going to improve the chances of selling your home for more money. Because, hey, maybe your home doesn't have any electrical bills and the house next to your home does. Well, suddenly your home kind of stands out. It's cheaper to run.
Yeah.
And so there's all those considerations as well. As you get older, of course, it's a second thought. But it is a good investment. It gives you a good return on that investment, retains its value, improves the value of your home for the long term. So these are serious considerations. I hope we've managed to get across to you this evening. It's a good thing to do. Yeah, it's a good thing to do no matter how old you might be.
Okay. Thanks.
Good question though. Who else we got here?
Harvey Yoder, did you have any comments?
Is Harvey there?
No.
Oh, no.
Okay. There's another fellow with his camera on, but I'm not sure.
They're all
Kieran Duick.
They're all Kieran. Something definitely we have a technical glitch here.
We're going to work on that for next time for sure.
You just, if you haven't spoken yet, just speak out your name and where you are if you want.
Hi, can you hear me?
Yeah, you bet.
Yes, Steve Jack. I'm out by Barhead, and I kind of split my time between Barhead and Spirit River there. So my interest in it is I'm an environmental consultant, and I think this is something that's going to be pretty prevalent here in the future. So it's of great interest to us.
Excellent. Glad to have you on board. Excellent. Environmental consultants. We need a lot more of those too, don't we? You betcha. Anybody else want to speak up and just say hi? We can't see your names on the screen or your pictures, but I think you're probably there. If you'd just like to say something, just go ahead, just name and where are you located?
Yeah, hello, it's Rick Keeler here.
Right on. Where are you?
We're near Peace River, west of Peace River. Basically retiring farmers, only a couple years behind you, but I think it's probably a good investment long-term, and I've been interested for years and been using it for fence chargers and solar watering for cattle, so I just have to step up the game a bit, I guess.
Yeah, well, right. Yeah, well, you understand the technology, then you're already using it. You see it has some practical value for sure. But you know, just in the last 4 or 5 years, it's come way down in price for systems that can power your whole home or your whole farm. So it has become very reasonable just in the last little while, which has been a big change for solar, which explains why it's becoming so popular all around the world. Of course, you know, it's the fastest growing energy source on the planet right now by far. And that wasn't even predicted 5 or 6 or 7 years ago. But that's exactly what's happened. And it's happened because it makes economic sense. There's an environmental sense, of course, but economics tends to come first and environment second. But that
It's always
explains why
nice
it's
to,
going so quickly. Go ahead.
it's always nice to be, I don't say making money, but to be financially on the right side, but the environmental parts are important as well, so. Anyway,
certainly
we're
is.
thinking about it.
Excellent. Well, thank you
Thanks.
for attending this evening. Thank you very much. Is anybody else wanting to speak up and say hi? Okay, good. Well, it's been fantastic. Greg, do you want to, what would you just close off or how do we end this?
Yeah, well, I think just thank everybody for coming out and keep safe. We know things are still difficult in a lot of areas in the country, so keep safe and stay well, and hope you get to spend some time with your loved ones. And thanks for joining us tonight, and we hope to talk to you soon. If you have any questions, for sure, give us a call in Peace River, the office there, or in Dawson Creek. The Peace River office is open part-time right now with volunteers. We had a bit of an accident with one of our employees there who outside of work, but is recovering, but just taking a little bit of time off. So,
But yeah, phone calls are free. You know, give us a call and ask questions, email, etc. So there's no obligation. You can call anytime. We'll answer questions as best as we can, and maybe get you started on the path to solar if you so choose.
Yeah, I just realized something I neglected to talk about in my presentation was I can do a pretty quick estimate for free if I have a good digital image of your property, or if you can send me some pictures. I can look at it, and probably in 15 minutes, half an hour, I can give you a pretty good estimate without doing a full report and charging anything. And from that, you might be able to decide that yes, it's something you want to go for or not. So give us an email or a phone call and we can talk through that.
Yeah, those first steps are pretty simple, and it's just a conversation. So it's always it's just more information for you if you're interested. Okay, then
All
I
right,
guess
we'll
we're
close
done.
off then. Thanks very much, everybody.
Thank you. Okay, take care. Stay safe.
you.
Stay safe.